Military aviation has been a mainstay in Boise, Idaho for more than 70 years. In 1940, the location for the Boise Air Base was chosen by the U.S. Army as a bomber training site because of the Boise Airport's climate, its long runway, and its close proximity to the city of Boise. The original base consisted of 120 buildings and was designed to provide facilities to house, mess, and administer a troop garrison of 2,500 officers and men. The original project cost was a little more than $2 million. General Order No. 8, dated July 29, 1941, officially renamed Boise Air Base to Gowan Field in honor of Lieutenant Paul R. Gowan, a native of nearby Caldwell, Idaho. Lieutenant Gowan died at the controls of his B-10 bomber in Panama in 1938. During World War II, Gowan Field served as an Army Air Corps training base and housed several different types of bomber aircraft, to include the B-18 Bolo, B-26 Marauder, B-17 Flying Fortress, and finally the B-24 Liberator. Among the soldiers who called Gowan Field home for training was actor-turned-lieutenant Jimmy Stewart. He learned to fly the B-24 Liberator here and went on to fly 20 combat missions over Europe. The end of World War II signaled a new beginning for Gowan Field and the beginning of the Idaho Air National Guard. Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Lanphier, who was one of the pilots credited with shooting down Japan's Admiral Yamamoto during World War II, stood up the original 190th Fighter Squadron on October 13, 1946. Like Lanphier, most of Idaho's early airmen were veterans of the war. The volunteers, 23 officers and 44 enlisted men, met one night each week in a small building on Fort Street in downtown Boise. They had nothing, no airplanes, no buildings, no money, not even an airfield, said retired Colonel W.D. Bozeman, one of the group's founding members, but they had determination and skills and hope. The 190th Fighter Squadron's first airplane was the famous P-51 Mustang, which became the F-51 in 1947 when the Air Force reclassified former pursuit aircraft as fighters. The squadron moved to Gowan Field in 1947 and has been here ever since. Idaho entered the jet age in 1953, trading aging Mustangs for the F-86A Saberjet, America's first swept-wing fighter. The 190th changed aircraft 4 more times over the next 22 years to fly the F-94 Starfire, the F-89 Scorpion, the F-86L Saberjet, and the F-102 Delta Dagger. The F-4 years from 1975 to 1995 were noteworthy for the diverse yet equally important missions of real-world accomplishment and training excellence. Training air crews became a central mission for the 124th beginning in 1983, when the 189th Tactical Reconnaissance Training Flight was formed. Serving as a national training center, the TRTF provided operational reconnaissance training to all recent Air National Guard graduates from pilot and weapons systems officer schools. In addition to the TRTF, the Reconnaissance Weapons School was also formed to give experienced Air National Guard and active-duty Phantom pilots the equivalent of an advanced degree in tactical reconnaissance flying. Upon graduation, the former students returned to their squadrons as proficient reconnaissance tactics instructors. The conversion from Recce to the F-4G Wild Weasel in late 1991 meant the closing of the Reconnaissance Weapons School and the opening of a new Wild Weasel schoolhouse. The GTU, as it was called, opened in May of 1992, and for the next 4 years it was the only training school in the Air Force training air crews for the suppression of enemy air defenses. During that time, more than 125 students flew more than 4,000 training sorties without a single accident. Also, in the midst of the conversion, Idaho was approved by the Air Training Command to train former active duty and Guard Recce weapons system officers to become electronics warfare officers in the Wild Weasel. Perhaps the most impressive accomplishment of the instructors at GTU, the school produced combat-ready crew members who were flying real-world combat missions over Iraq in as short a time as 1 month after graduation. While training was indeed a major focus, Idaho air crews excelled in their real-world missions as well. 2 Idaho flyers were named Best Aerial Reconnaissance Aircrew at an international competition. The 124th was named Best Flying Unit in the Air National Guard and received the prestigious Spatz Trophy from the National Guard Association. In 1993, Idaho's Wild Weasels deployed in support of Operation Southern Watch, enforcing the no-fly zone over southern Iraq. The 124th earned its 4th Air Force Outstanding Unit Award, presented to the unit personally by the Secretary of the Air Force, for its role in Operation Southern Watch. From 1993 to 1995, Idaho's airmen served more than a year in the volatile Persian Gulf, longer than any other flying unit in the Air National Guard. When the last of the Wild Weasels left in 1995, the 124th Fighter Group became the 124th Wing. The new wing consisted of 18 units, 2 flying squadrons, 15 support units at Gowan Field, and an electronic combat training range control squadron assigned to Mountain Home Air Force Base, Idaho. The wing also received 2 new aircraft, the A-10 Warthog and the C-130 Hercules. The Warthog, famous for its success against Iraqi armor in the First Gulf War, provides close air support to troops on the ground and is also well known for its ability to conduct combat search and rescue operations. Idaho's A-10s proved their worth during Operation Allied Force in 1999 when they flew combat missions over Kosovo, and again in Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003 as the lead A-10 unit in combat. 2 Idaho pilots received the Distinguished Flying Cross for their efforts. Later deployments to Iraq in 2007 and Afghanistan in 2008 have made the A-10 Warthog and the pilots of the 190th Fighter Squadron a vital part of the combat landscape in the theater of operations. Idaho Airmen and C-130s from the 189th Airlift Squadron were no stranger to deployments either. The squadron completed 8 overseas deployments from 2003 to 2009, including a continuous rotation lasting from December 2003 to January 2006, and deploying more than 375 personnel. While training hasn't been a formal mission of the Idaho Air National Guard since the F-4 days, Gowan Field's close proximity to ranges and its unique blend of Air Force and Army air and ground assets have made it a premier location for individual training for Air National Guard pilots, as well as upgrade training for active duty pilots. Idaho bid a fond farewell to its Hercs in 2009 as the 189th Airlift Squadron was deactivated, and aircraft were relocated as a result of the 2005 Base Realignment and Closure Act. With the departure of the C-130 mission, the 124th Wing would become the 124th Fighter Wing. Since 1946, facing changes and overcoming challenges have consistently produced positive results in first-class airmen, thanks to the dedicated efforts of thousands of men and women who have served Idaho and America as members of the Idaho Air National Guard.